verleden ons over kernrampen in Japan? Wat wordt er niet verteld in de media? Dat hebben we ontdekt. Dat denk ik wordt nodig. Dus in 2007 was er in Niigata reeds een kernramp. Toevallig de noordkant van de huidige ramp. Wat waren de gevolgen van die ramp? 6,8 om de schaal van Richter, wat ook al vrij zwaar is. 8 mensen gedood, meer dan 7 mensen. Massale power outage, dus geen stroom meer, en die centrale hebben ze 10 maanden moeten stilleggen. Dat is wat er op Wikipedia staat. Dus je hebt Sverige zoekt. Ja, dat is gelijk hoor. Dus geen paniek en dan. Wat is er echt gebeurd? Bovendien is zwarte rook, radioactieve rook die gelekt heeft. Verschillende brandjes, verschillende radioactieve waterlekken. Eigenlijk een beetje wat er nu gebeurt aan de overkant, maar in het klein. Dan stel ik mij de kritische vraag, is het allemaal toeval? Toeval is voor mij onbegrepen dynamiek. Dus als je iets niet begrijpt en je wilt bedrog reden, toeval. Heel simpel. Nu, dit is dus de kerncentrale waar ik het over heb, is aan de andere kant. Hè. En toevallig was het epicentrum, dat is veroorzaakt door een aardbeving, toevallig was het epicentrum van die aardbeving, zijn eigen twee geweest, net die kerncentrale, net de plek van die kerncentrale. Ja, ik heb daarover een filmpje gevonden, wat mogelijk een verklaring geeft van wat er hier gebeurt.
Last year, I confronted Heizo Takenaka, the former Japanese finance minister, over why he handed over control of the Japanese financial system to a group of American and European oligarchs. He and his envoy told me that it was because Japan had been threatened by an earthquake machine. I did not believe it at the time. However, when I started exposing some of their doings, I was told by the Japanese security police that because of what I had said on places like rents.com, that Niigata City was going to be hit by an earthquake. 2 days later, Japan's largest nuclear reactor was the exact epicenter of 2 earthquakes, both 6.8 in magnitude. That was too much of a coincidence for me. So I started doing research and found out about HAARP, H-A-A-R-P. And I realized that they really did know how to make earthquakes. And they do it by shooting a billion-watt microwave into the ionosphere, which is the part of the atmosphere that has a lot of energy in it. That pushes the ionosphere up into outer space, and then it rebounds. And the way it rebounds can cause earthquakes. Just like an opera singer can break a glass by singing at a certain level, or by dragging your fingernails on a blackboard, you feel a weird sensation. If they adjust the vibration for the rock underneath their target site, they can do that. The same machine can also heat up subterranean water to cause earthquakes. And remember, a billion-watt microwave. What does microwave do to water? It heats it up. Now imagine if you put 1 billion watts into a tropical storm. You could make it much bigger, and you could change the direction it flows in. You know how there's high pressure zones and low pressure zones. Well, high is hot and low is cold. And the hot flows into the cold. And vice versa, and there's more of the cold. So they can heat up an area and cause it to flow into a next door area. In other words, these people are capable of creating the cyclone that hit Myanmar, the tsunami that hit Indonesia, and the earthquake that hit China. Now, after the earthquakes hit Niigata, a member of the Inagawa crime family, which is based in around the U.S. Yokosuka Air Base, and members of the Inagawa family have told me that their big boss is George Bush Sr. In other words, they work for Skull and Bones. And they invited me to a so-called UFO gathering where they showed me the video of this blob. They told me it was a UFO, but it was obviously, to me anyway, a plasma weapon, or a ball of heat created by something like a 1 billion-watt microwave. And I predicted in my blog that there would be videos of lights found above China before the earthquake. And those videos then appeared on the internet after I predicted they would. And furthermore, a Taiwanese satellite detected a 50% drop in the ionosphere, in the amount of electric energy in the ionosphere above the earthquake zone. Now, a 50% drop would be exactly what would happen with HARP. It would push the ionosphere up, and then it would slam back down. So, it looks like the insane criminals who have taken over the US government are killing people and threatening people with earthquake weapons. It doesn't look like it. I actually have some of the proof. And I want to ask the governments of China and Russia and Japan to reveal to the world everything they know about these weapons and the use by the American forces. I would also like to ask the loyal Americans and the patriotic Americans in the Air Force to please bomb the power generator of the HARP stations in Greenland and Alaska so they can stop this mass murder. They've already killed 500,000 people. If we find out that the tsunami in Indonesia was caused by them, and there's a good chance because the earthquakes seem to be politically timed. They asked the Indonesian government to open the Straits of Malacca and to join in the fight against terrorism, and they refused. What happened? There was a tsunami, and suddenly they cooperated. In Myanmar, they are about to have an election. And immediately before the election it came. And guess what? Just conveniently, the US, British, and French navies are standing by with food supplies. It should take a couple of weeks to get there. What were they doing there already? And China had just succeeded in getting India to join with Russia and Brazil and other countries to join the Shanghai Cooperation Agreement or to cooperate with it. And Japan just had a very, very friendly summit meeting with China where the emperor met the Chinese leader 3 times. President Bush has not met the Japanese emperor in 8 years. Okay? So in other words, the United States is becoming isolated. And instead of being the policeman of the world, they have become the criminal of the world, the gangster of the world, the bully of the world. They have been taken over by madmen. And they have to be stopped. But we must not give them any excuse to convince the Western public to support a World War III. That's what they want, and they're not going to get it.
The blueprint for HARP, High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program.
What does HARP do? HARP is a large antenna where we beam radio frequency energy up into the upper atmosphere, and we create on a small scale what the sun normally does.
The assignment came that the Navy and the Air Force were to manage the program.
Applications discussed in the patents included destroying missiles. Communications control and disruption were included. There were some other ideas both to possibly modify weather and finally to lift a portion of the upper atmosphere further out into space where hopefully it would be able to deflect missile trajectories.
In 1983, I did radio tomography with 30 watts, looking for oil in the ground. I found 26 oil wells over a 9-state area, and 100% of the time was accurate, with just 30 watts of power beaming straight into solid rock. HARP uses 1 billion watts, beamed straight into the ionosphere for experiments. Picture these strings on the piano as layers of the earth. Each one has its own frequency. What we used to do is beam radio waves into the ground, and it would vibrate any strings that were present in the ground. We might get a sound back like, and we'd say, that's natural gas. We might get a sound back like, and we'd say that's crude oil. We were able to identify each frequency. We accomplished this with just 30 watts of radio power. If you do this with 2 billion watts, the vibrations are so violent that the entire piano would shake. In fact, the whole house would shake. In fact, the vibrations could be so severe underground that could even cause an earthquake.
A harp can create some of the effects that the sun creates that are similar to the aurora borealis.
Harp can paint designs in the sky, if you will. You know, you can take the beam and move it in any pattern that the scientist who's doing an experiment might want to do.
设备四上的人能要抽吧？
这东西是个方向问题，你打其他方向看不到。
有光线的折射嘛，太阳折射，就是用在折射的太阳光幕，应该就是。
Hele proclamatiesessies met ministers. Dus de persoon die gezien hebt was de minister van Japan van Financiën. En die is bedreigd geweest met een aardbeving.
Wel, Erik, Daniel, Frederik voor dit Japanese oppakkertje. Vooral op duidelijkheid, hetgeen ik verstuurd heb naar de pers waren de vragen die ik voorgelegd heb aan de Belgische seismologische specialisten. Je kunt het allemaal lezen op mijn blog. Ik heb niet gezegd dat het zo is, alleen gezegd dat toch wel heel eigenaardige vaststellingen, magnetometer in Alaska, heel eigenaardige seismologische vaststellingen in Japan zelf, die niet wijzen op een natuurlijke aardbeving. Het is een aardbeving geweest, maar denk ik met een grote kans kunstmatig getriggerd, waarbij niet uit te sluiten is dat er ook andere factoren hebben meegespeeld. Nu gaan we over tot het onderwerp waarvoor u gekomen bent. UFO's, ET's, buitenaardse intelligenties en vrije energie. Waarom besteden we daar vanuit de Belfort Group aandacht aan? Wel, ten eerste omdat we geïnteresseerd zijn in de waarheid en op dat vlak worden we onvoorspelbaar geloven. En ten tweede omdat het voor meer en meer mensen duidelijk wordt dat in functie van de toekomstige ontwikkelingen dit wel een heel belangrijke rol zou kunnen spelen. En we hebben iemand daarvoor kunnen strikken die van over de grens gekomen is, die van in het begin oog en aandacht gehad heeft voor de Belfort Group. Professor Koen Vermeer van de Technische Universiteit van Delft. Ik heb hem in de uitnodiging uitvoerig toegelicht. We beschouwen hem niet alleen als een bekende en als een supporter van de Belfort Group, maar ook als een vriend. En we zijn hem zeer dankbaar voor hetgeen hij gedaan heeft op ons internationaal chemtrail symposium. Hij heeft het aangedurfd om dat potentieel explosief wetenschappelijk rapport te komen toelichten en taxeren op zijn wetenschappelijke verdiensten. En hij is een van de weinige wetenschappers die out of the box durft te denken en te spreken. En dat gaat hij hier vanavond voor ons doen. We gaan een loopmicrofoon geven, zodanig dat alles voor iedereen goed duidelijk is en dat ook de opnamen die gemaakt worden akoestisch goed geregistreerd worden. In ieder geval een opwarmingsapplaus voor onze professor.
Dit zit niks in natuurlijk. Nee, dat is modern. Zakken waar je niks in kunt stoppen. Ja, normaal gesproken geef ik college, dames en heren, dus ik heb niet altijd zo'n ding nodig, maar ik begrijp voor de opname dat het prettig is, want u bent net al gewend geraakt aan het microfoonloos luisteren. En het klinkt nu wel heel hard, maar goed.